I was just about to step onto the podium when I heard a chair scrape behind me, slicing right through the moment. At my graduation, my sister stood up and pointed at me like she was passing a judgment. She had cheated her way through college. No whispers, no pause, just a striking public verdict. The entire auditorium turned their attention to us. My brother was a mere ghost in this narrative, with only Ariana taking center stage, her eagerness for an audience evident. My parents were frozen in shock. I continued forward, holding tightly to the culmination of 4 years of hard work, relying solely on my breath and backbone. Before I dive into what followed once I reached the stage, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. And if the roles were reversed, what would you have done? Growing up, I never anticipated my sister turning into my foe. In fact, much of my childhood was spent trying to bask in the light that seemed to follow Ariana everywhere. She was the one with the golden aura, louder, more vibrant, and effortlessly captivating. During our family dinners in Portland, everyone leaned in to hear her stories while I sat beside her, nodding and learning to diminish myself so she could shine. But a change occurred when I transitioned from being her quiet shadow to carving out my own identity. By junior year in high school, my grades began to surpass hers. Teachers started calling on me more frequently, and then came that scholarship letter with my name on it. The smile Ariana flashed me felt like the sweetness of overripe fruit. College only widened the gap. I left for campus with a duffel bag and a handful of psychology textbooks, while she remained at home after leaving her grad program. I thought it didn't matter, different journeys, different times. But the first sign of trouble emerged when my scholarship refund came up short. I noticed a discrepancy in my financial aid. When I inquired with my parents about any information from Ariana, they exchanged a glance too quick to interpret. Then the emails started rolling in. A plagiarism accusation? It felt foreign to me, especially involving a missed appointment with Professor Hale or an allegation of tutoring I never engaged in. They were minor at first, easy to dismiss amidst the school chaos. But soon, each weight added to my reputation, until I felt the burden of concealed gazes in the hallways, like a shadow approaching a shattered mirror. Lena, my roommate, picked up on it before I had a chance to speak. "You're checking your phone constantly, like you're waiting for bad news," she observed one night in our shared space. I struggled to articulate that I wasn't awaiting misfortunes. I was anticipating a pattern. Deep down, I hoped it wasn't Ariana. The sister who used to braid my hair before school couldn't possibly be the source of all this turmoil. Yet, hope often blinds you just before the inevitable blow lands. And little did I know she would strike on a day when I was completely unprepared for defense. The months leading up to graduation felt like living in an ever-dimming room, a slow fade that made me question my perceptions without fully plunging me into darkness. Just when I thought I had faced my toughest moments, something new slipped in. First, there was a second reduction in my scholarship payments. Then a note about a form I had already submitted, missing, evidently. My campus account then locked me out due to repeated suspicious activity. I stared at the login screen, feeling as though even the system were declaring I didn't truly belong any longer. Professor Hale summoned me next. "A complaint has come in," he said cautiously, folding his hands. "Someone claims you plagiarized sections of your behavioral analysis report." My stomach sank. I had poured weeks of work into that report, late nights, cold leftovers, endless edits. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but he raised his hand to stop me. "I don't buy it. I'm informing you so you're prepared." "For what? A battle I didn't instigate?" Whispers trailed after me as I left his office. Evan, a classmate from my freshman year, scrutinized me oddly in the hallway. A girl from my lab group deliberately avoided my gaze. Even Lena, who typically trusted my instincts, asked, "You don't really think someone is targeting you, right?" I replied unsurely, yet deep down, I knew. I just couldn't bring myself to say it aloud. The critical moment hit that night when I discovered a message in my inbox, apparently sent by me to a faculty assistant, canceling an essential meeting for my capstone review. The tone didn't resemble mine. The phrasing was alien. The signature? Definitely not mine. But the repercussions were unmistakably my burden. Sitting on my bed in our dimly lit studio, I scrolled through old memories of Ariana as if rewinding a film. The snide comments, the cutting smiles, the dismissive attitude towards my achievements, each memory brought a realization that she had been floating through life since leaving her grad program, endlessly comparing and calculating. Between those reflections, the undeniable truth crystallized. This wasn't mere randomness or bad luck. Someone was orchestrating my fall, bit by bit. That weekend, I drove home and spotted my dad in the backyard, standing next to the old fence he'd promised to fix for ages. He tended to the hydrangeas, seemingly oblivious to the world closing in around me. "Dad, has Ariana said anything about me at school?" He hesitated, water spilling onto his shoes. "She's been stressed," he confessed. "Claims you get everything easily." I told her that wasn't right, but it didn't matter. The rift was already present. Upon returning to campus, I made my choice. No more uncertainty. No more wishing I was mistaken. I contacted a tech investigator named Noah Vance, someone a mutual friend assured me could unveil hidden truths within technology. Within days, I had the identities, timestamps, and locations of those shadows, including one linked to Ariana. That was the turning point. The unease within me morphed into determination. Noah was quiet. During our first meeting, he absorbed every detail as I shared every strange transaction, canceled meetings, and murmurs that had clung to me like smoke. Once I wrapped up, he tapped the edge of his laptop and said, "If anyone has access to your accounts, they definitely left traces. It's what people do." 3 days later, he invited me back to his shared office downtown. The atmosphere buzzed with hushed conversations and the whir of old ventilation systems, yet Noah's screen displayed everything with stunning clarity. "These are your login records," he pointed out, "but here, and here, those don't belong to you." The access originated from another device on a home network in Portland. My heart sank. I dreaded hearing what he was about to say next. He said it anyway. "That's the same network where your parents reside." Something inside me curled up, like my ribs were wrapping around my heart. He wasn't accusing them outright, but there was only one person from that home who knew my passwords, security questions, and habits. "Ariana," Noah scrolled on. "There's more. The scholarship refund money that's missing? Someone drained it twice." He pulled up another window, revealing a list of transactions flagged to my campus account tied to these tutoring accusations. They were sent using an email address that was almost identical to mine, just one character off. That's deliberate. My throat felt parched. Deliberate. The term hit hard. I left the office, trembling, my phone buzzing in my pocket. "Lena texted you." "Okay. You've been quiet." I couldn't reply. Not yet. I needed some distance, something stable to grasp. Instead, I drove straight to my parents' house, parked in the driveway, and gazed at the flickering porch light beneath the early summer sky. 20 minutes later, Dad found me. "Jolie, what's going on?" I didn't spill everything. Just enough. That missing scholarship money? The plagiarism claim? Someone's been in my accounts messing with my life. He swallowed hard. "Are you suggesting?" "I don't know what I'm saying." I fibbed. "Not until I have proof." Because the truth would shatter him. He still saw Ariana as complicated, not malicious, wounded, not dangerous. He couldn't see what she was inflicting on me, not when I'd spent years masking it with a smile. But I wasn't hiding anything anymore. Back on campus that evening, I gathered every file, screenshot, and odd detail Noah had verified. If Ariana aimed to dismantle the life I had built, I would defend it with everything I had left. The next morning, I reached out to attorney Mara Reyes. She examined what I presented and asked one crucial question: when do you want this to end? When it's no longer just me she can harm, I replied. That's when a shift occurred, subtle yet absolute. I wasn't just reacting anymore, I was gearing up. Graduation was 2 weeks away. I meticulously stored the evidence in a sealed envelope, properly labeled and ready. For the first time in months, I felt something other than fear. I felt purpose. The next 2 weeks passed as if I were living in dual realities. One was a typical graduating student's life. Returning my dorm key, completing finals, trying on my cap and gown in front of the mirror. The other was preparing for a silent battle, one Ariana had no clue she had already lost. The night before graduation, I hardly slept. The sky outside my studio was a deep, pristine blue, the kind that seemed to freeze time. I organized everything: the sealed envelope of evidence, the printed logs verified by Noah, and my capstone summary, all set thanks to Mara. My hands were steady, no longer shaky. Now they reflected someone stepping out of mere survival mode. At dawn, I tucked the envelope into the inner lining of my gown and stepped outside. By the time I arrived at the university auditorium in Portland, it was already alive with energy. Students greeted one another with hugs. Parents waved programs to keep cool, while faculty members lined up in their ceremonial garb. Everything appeared normal, festive, and hopeful, yet beneath it all, a slow, anxious thrum resonated in my chest. Not of fear of Ariana, but of dread regarding what I might have to expose. As soon as my family arrived, it was unmistakable. Ariana wasn't just dressing for graduation, she looked like she was the one running the show. With her white blazer, bold makeup, and overly rehearsed demeanor, she scanned the crowd, her eyes searching, eager for the attention she hadn't truly earned. My mom was the first to wave at me, her gesture overly bright. Dad gave me a strong hug, holding on a bit longer than usual, almost as if he sensed an impending storm. Ariana lingered behind them, arms crossed and poised. "Congratulations," she said smoothly, almost too casually. "Big day." "Yeah," I replied, striving to keep my tone neutral. "Huge." Her smile turned sharp, quick, almost predatory. In an instant, I discerned her intentions. She wasn't here to cheer, she was here to attack. I took my seat on the stage with the honor students, and from that vantage point, the audience resembled a singular, living entity. The warm lights lit up my face, and an unexpected calm washed over me. Dean Matthews caught my gaze from his spot. We had chatted the night before, and he was aware of everything that was at stake. He offered me the tiniest nod. The ceremony unfolded, with speeches, applause, and music rising and falling. My name was towards the end of the alphabet, giving Ariana ample opportunity to execute her plans for ruining my special day. And she seized it. I first heard the scrape of her chair as it slid back, followed by her voice piercing through the auditorium. She claimed she had cheated her way through college. The noise hit the audience like a rip in fabric, conversations halted mid-sentence, and faculty members froze in shock. Phones shot up, their screens capturing the scene she so desperately sought to create. "She doesn't deserve that diploma," Ariana shouted, raising her voice again. "She lied. She manipulated the system. Just ask anyone." A multitude of faces shifted towards me, their expressions changing from joy to shock and then to confusion, concern, and necessity for clarity. A torrent of eyes all seemed to ask the same question: is it true? I stood. Each step I took down the aisle was deliberate, the clicks of my heels sounding like a ticking clock. I avoided looking at Ariana, not out of fear of what she might say, but because I was already acutely aware of everything she was about to lose. Students parted to allow me through while some whispered, others stared, and a few looked away as if they feared my humiliation could be contagious. But humiliation had vanished. What surged within me was purpose. The dean awaited me at the podium, his face composed and his hands resting lightly on a pile of diplomas. As I reached him, the atmosphere still buzzed with Ariana's accusations, yet his voice was steady as he addressed me. "Jolie Hart," he announced. I accepted my diploma, lifted my chin, and leaned in slightly. "It's under my seat," I whispered, envelope marked A19. He didn't blink or ask for more detail. Instead, he offered a subtle, knowing smile and a nod. That nod marked the quiet start of her downfall. Behind us, security moved with discretion. A faculty member approached the row where Ariana stood, visibly shaken and her makeup cracking under the pressure of her performance. She failed to realize that the room no longer belonged to her. Not after the dean's nod. Not after the evidence waiting below my chair. As I stepped off the stage, I felt the energy shift. The whispers transformed. A woman in the second row lowered her phone, frowning not at me but at Ariana. One professor shook his head in disapproval. A local reporter leaned forward, jotting down notes. Ariana sensed the change as well. "What?" she barked, her composure wavering. "You all saw it." She didn't attempt to deny anything. She stood there, uncomprehending. Sometimes silence doesn't mean admission. Sometimes, it's a strategic choice. Security reached her row, and one of the officers spoke gently, offering her an option to step out. But subtlety wasn't her style. "You're all blind," she screamed, pointing once more, her sophistication crumbling under her desperation. She's been lying for years. But the crowd was no longer on her side. They witnessed me walk steadily, they saw the dean's nod, and they watched Ariana unravel. It began with a crack in her voice, then her hands trembled, and finally, the control she thought she had over me, our family, and the narrative slipped away. She tried to continue shouting, but security firmly but gently ushered her toward the aisle. It wasn't a forceful act, it merely aligned with the natural conclusion of her decisions. When she reached the auditorium doors, she turned for one last time, disbelief radiating from her eyes. "You think this is the end, Jolie?" she spat. "Do you believe that little whisper makes you innocent?" I didn't glance back, confident because the truth was already on a quiet, legal, and unstoppable path. After the ceremony, I met the dean backstage. He held the hidden envelope I had safeguarded. "This is serious," he said softly. "So was what she did," I responded. He nodded, his demeanor calm. "You did the right thing." A few minutes later, Mira arrived, her presence sharp and commanding. She quickly went through the documents. Log statements, summaries, screenshots, transaction evidence, every detail reinforcing the truth. "She won't be able to twist this around," Mira declared. "Not before the academic board, not in a courtroom, not anywhere at all." Just like that, the final act of Ariana's scheme crumbled. It wasn't due to my shouting or grappling with her in the auditorium. It was my refusal to engage on her terms that sealed her fate. The investigation kicked off the very next morning. By week's end, Ariana found herself barred from campus pending a thorough review. 2 professors stepped forward with previously overlooked suspicious emails. Meanwhile, the scholarship office unearthed payments linked directly to accounts associated with her device. When Noah presented his digital report, the board required only a single meeting to conclude that Ariana's sabotage was irrefutable. Her dramatic outburst at graduation, which she believed would ruin me, ultimately became the most compelling evidence of her obsessive and malicious intent. In the calms following the turmoil, something surprising occurred. Instead of feeling triumphant, I felt liberated. Over the ensuing weeks, the investigation progressed more quickly than I'd anticipated. The academic board announced its findings. Ariana had unlawfully accessed my accounts, rerouted scholarship funds, forged emails, and tried to tamper with my academic record. She was officially expelled from campus and referred for civil action. When Mira filed for restitution, The evidence was so overwhelming that negotiations lasted scarcely an hour. My parents struggled to process everything. Initially shocked and in denial, they eventually accepted the facts as the documentation left little to interpretation. One evening, Dad's voice cracked as he lamented, "I should have spotted this," his tone heavy with regret. I didn't blame him. Ariana always excelled at camouflaging herself in the shades where love morphed into assumption. Soon after, I relocated to a modest apartment in Corvallis. It wasn't extravagant, but sunlight flooded through the windows each morning. I found a second-hand table, adopted a cat who swiftly claimed every chair, and allowed my life to simplify. For the first time in ages, my days were no longer dictated by fear or uncertainty. I studied, strolled, and breathed freely, slowly but surely. The chaos that Ariana had once introduced transformed into a softer sanctuary, a space for me to reclaim and reinvent myself on my own terms. I've realized that sharing the truth isn't about triumphing over others, but rather about stepping out into the light from the shadows created by someone else's choices. While Ariana's actions caused me suffering, they don't dictate my future. That's something I forged myself, piece by piece, with proof, patience, and a firm decision to no longer shrink away. If you've ever had to confront someone who should have had your back, remember, you're not alone. I invite you to share your story in the comments. I do read them. And if you're eager for more inspiring stories, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one.